I called out my boyfriend for stealing our kids' piggy bank money. So I've been with my boyfriend Mike for 11 years, and we have 4 kids together, ages 6, 8, 10, and 12. We've always had this rule in our house that any loose change the kids find around the house, except in my bedroom and bathroom, they can keep in their little piggy bank jars. It started when our oldest Emma was like 5 and kept finding quarters under couch cushions and behind the dryer. Instead of just pocketing it, I told her she could save it up and buy something special. The other kids loved the idea, so we got them all their own mason jars to collect change. Over the past few months, our 10-year-old Jake had saved up over $40. He was so proud, counting it every night before bed, planning to buy this remote control car he'd been wanting forever. Emma had about $25 saved up for art supplies, and even our 6-year-old Lucy had almost $15. But lately, I started noticing their jars were getting emptier instead of fuller. At first, I thought maybe they were spending it, but when I asked, they all said they weren't touching their money. That's when I realized what was happening. Mike has been grabbing handfuls of their change whenever he needed money for gas station drinks or snacks. He'd just walk into their room, dump out a jar, and take whatever he needed. The kids were too young to really understand what was happening, but I could see Jake getting frustrated that his money kept disappearing. Yesterday morning, Mike comes up to me with his own little change jar and goes, "Hey babe, can you take this to the bank and get me bills? I need cash for lunch today." While I'm counting out his coins, he walks over to the kids' shelf and starts emptying their jars into his. I watched him take Jake's last $3, Emma's $5, and even Lucy's tiny pile of pennies and nickels. These kids had been saving for months, and he just scooped it all up like it belonged to him. That's when I snapped. I said, "You know what, Mike? Why don't we just throw away their piggy banks completely? Since you keep taking their money, they're basically useless anyway." He looked at me confused and goes, "What do you mean? The jars are great. They keep change off the floor and teach the kids to save." I stared at him. How exactly are they learning to save when you steal their money every few days? Emma's been saving for art supplies since Christmas, and you keep taking her money for energy drinks. Mike got all defensive and started making excuses about how it's all family money anyway, and how the kids don't really need cash for anything. He said I was being dramatic over a few dollars. But it wasn't about the money. It was about him teaching our kids that their hard work didn't matter, that someone could just take what they'd earned whenever they felt like it. I told him he was stealing from children, our children. Mike's face went red and he dumped all the change from his jar back into theirs, but I could tell he was furious. He grabbed his work bag and stormed out, saying I was making a big deal out of nothing. But later that day, Jake came running up to me with the biggest smile, showing me how his jar was full again. "Look, Mom, my money came back," he said, and started counting it out on the kitchen table, planning his remote control car purchase all over again. Mike hasn't touched their jars since.